Welcome, friends. It's Bob and Fran, your healthy aging advocates, authors, and mentors. Today, we are so honored to have the dynamic and very inspiring Victoria Moran as our special guest.
Listed by Veg News among the top 10 living vegetarian authors, Victoria has written books including Main Street Vegan, Younger by the Day,
Oh, I like that one.
and Creating a Charmed Life. Featured twice on Oprah and host of the Main Street Vegan podcast, Victoria is director of Main Street Vegan Academy, training and certifying vegan lifestyle coaches and educators for the past 10 years. A yoga practitioner of half a century and a Yoga Alliance registered yoga teacher, she's working on her 14th book,
Oh my God.
Age Like a Yogi.
Yeah. Well, welcome, Victoria, and thank you so much for visiting with us and with our viewers.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me and for all you do in the world. I love your book, and it's so cool to be talking with you face to face.
Well, the pleasure is ours, and we appreciate your time here. You truly are a trailblazer in the plant-based movement. I don't mean to age you, but you've been doing it for some time, and I wonder if you could give us some insights as to why this all started and how you became a whole food vegan back in the, 1983 or so, am I right?
Yes, I actually went vegetarian in 1969. That was because of yoga. I heard about people who were vegan a couple of years after that. And even though at the time it seemed really extreme, I'd never heard of such a thing, it also felt right. They told me about the mother cows and the baby calves, and I wanted to do it. But as a practicing binge eater, I simply couldn't. I'd do it for a while, and then I would go on an eating binge, and I'd find myself in the 7-Eleven late at night reading labels, and none of them seemed to be vegan. And then I would pick myself up after days or weeks or however long it took and try to get back on track. But at that time, and what many people are still reading today, getting back on track meant lots of animal protein. So it was very, very difficult and convoluted, and I went round and round. And sometimes I would do this for weeks. Sometimes I'd do it for months. And when I had some track record there behind me, I'd feel like, this is so cool. I'm a vegan. Plant-based was not a phrase then. Dr. Campbell wasn't with us yet and hadn't coined that term. But eventually I'd always fall off. So what happened in 1983 was that my daughter was born, and I wanted to raise her vegan. And I knew to do that, I had to be, but I didn't know how I could possibly do it. And so I did have a little bit of experience with the 12-step program of Overeaters Anonymous, and I totally surrendered to that program. And as soon as I just gave it all up, in that moment of surrender, I would have eaten anything just to be free. But what happened in the moment of surrender was that I realized that, of course, I could be vegan. In fact, it would be far preferable to be vegan a day at a time and doing the things that I needed to do to leave my eating disorder behind me. And that's how it's been since the Reagan administration.
Oh my gosh. Well, we appreciate that story. That is a good one. So we were wondering why you use the term vegan and not plant-based. And can you speak to that for just a minute or two?
Yes. Well, I think that efficiency is a really great value to have. And the Vegan Society was formed in the UK in 1945, and that word has been around for such a long time. People finally know what it means. And so to me, it's very inefficient to toss it out for something else, especially something that has a different meaning to everyone who uses it. I remember Dr. Joel Fuhrman saying, well, the standard American diet is plant-based because most of the calories come from plant foods. And if you think about all the French fries and the potato chips, that's true. Other people are plant-based when they're kind of flexitarian. Other people say plant-based when they mean whole food plant-based, and they're not only eating as dietary vegans, but they're also avoiding other foods, processed foods, salt, sugar, oil, some of these things. And so to me, as a writer and someone who really loves the English language, I think we need to be as clear as possible. So when my neighbor says, oh, my kids are going to a math-based school, I don't think that they're abused children who are not being taught history or English. I just know that that school emphasizes the math. When somebody tells me they're on a plant-based diet, I kind of get the same impression. So I'm a whole foods vegan, and I'm happy for anybody to call themselves whatever they call themselves, because our arteries and the animals and the earth aren't paying attention to the terminology. But as a writer, I am.
Are you an animal lover yourself, though?
Oh, I very much am. That is, somebody said to me years and years ago, way back in the 1970s, when I was part of an animal rights group in my hometown of Kansas City, an older woman, she's probably my age, said, I don't love animals. I hate cruelty. And I'm both. I love animals. I just think they're magnificent. But even more than that, I hate cruelty. And that's why I do my best to live a vegan lifestyle.
Yeah.
Victoria, we're all about healthy aging and wonder what your views are on this. You're about to turn 72. Do you feel old yet?
You know, sometimes I feel different. And I think that starts fairly early. I think 50 is the big kind of dividing line thereabouts between what we think of as youth and what we think of as maturity. Now, in Ayurveda, which is a wonderful Indian healthcare system that I'm very fond of, they say youth ends at 60. And they don't say that in any kind of bad way, just that you need to start taking care of yourself in different ways. I also think it's very hopeful because in our culture, people are apt to think, well, youth ends at 35. So 60 gives people a lot more time in the young category. But, you know, there are times that a hair will grow out of my chin, or I'll sit for too long and my left knee that I injured running in my 20s will be a little bit stiff. And I could translate that as, oops, that's old. Or I can translate it as that's life. And like everything else, that's life. We deal with it.
Yeah, we sort of have the philosophy that getting older does not necessarily have to mean getting sicker. And a lot of people have that mindset that we've come across that, oh, I'm 68 now, and I know I'm going to have arthritis. I know that eventually I'll need a cane or something like that. So that mindset, we try to
we don't buy into that.
No. And I have a feeling you feel similarly.
Yeah, I do. What my hope is to, a day at a time, be open to life and deal with what's presented. So I don't see any reason why I should start acting decrepit when I'm not. And on the other hand, I'm not going to take up gymnastics, which I might have done 50 years ago. So it's just all kind of a little dance with the small r reality of life on Earth infused with the bigger reality of this wonderful spiritual entity that we are.
Yeah. I was just thinking that you wrote a book called Younger by the Day. And it seems to reflect our feeling of, we use the phrase, say yes to life.
Amen.
Because I think too many people, I mean, we tell the story, it didn't happen that long ago, well, before COVID, but we asked a friend if he'd join us for dinner at an Indian restaurant. Oh, no, no, not Indian food, not for me. Well, have you ever tried Indian food? Well, not really. I've never tried it.
But already he didn't like it.
Yeah. So we say, if you're not sure, say yes, give anything a try. And I just think it opens up your mind, and it's just enjoying life to the fullest, I think.
And for sure. And I'm so glad you brought up the friend who didn't want to try Indian food, because I have just come up with a concept that I feel is the missing link in our plant-based proselytizing. And that is the idea that people have what I call food styles. And some people are what I call RJs. That's regular Joe, regular Jane. That sounds like your friend. He doesn't want to go very far afield in culinary exploration. Yeah. Then you've got the foodie or the gourmand. This is the Anthony Bourdain kind of person, where they just want to explore the whole world and anything edible is good, and chefs are like enlightened beings. And then you've got your gourmet, you've got your hipster who wants to go to the place that's trendy and eat the food that's trendy, like avocado toast was so trendy until they put it on the menu at Dunkin' Donuts, and now it's not trendy anymore. So I actually wrote the blog post at Main Street Vegan this week on food styles. And I think it's really important, because when we're trying to share how we eat with other people, if we can share it within the parameter of who they are, instead of, and guess what, to do this, you have to become somebody new and different. I just think it helps.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
I like that. So do you like Indian food yourself?
I love Indian food, especially mulligatawny soup. That's my favorite. I also make khichdi probably 3 or 4 times a week. Do you guys know khichdi?
No, that we don't know.
It's kind of like the chicken soup of India. And it's highly prescribed in Ayurvedic medicine, but a lot of Indian grandmothers make it too, because it's very, very easy to digest. So it's basically rice, basmati rice, brown or white, depending on the person's digestive capability, and split mung beans or split lentils, beans that are a little easier to digest, wonderful Indian spices of your choosing, and whatever vegetables you happen to feel like. I like to put sweet potatoes in there and maybe wait a little bit closer to the end and put in some leafy greens. So I do khichdi in a crock pot so many mornings, and it's warm and satisfying, and there's just nothing like those Indian spices. Antioxidants.
We're going to have to add that to our repertoire.
Yeah, we're going to get that recipe down. We appreciate that.
Could you tell us what 3 eating habits are the most rejuvenating in your life?
Oh my goodness. Well, I think one definitely is just not eating animals and animal products. I know a lot of people who are into health talk about all the foods that aren't health promoting as if they're equal. So the candy bar and the beef burger are the same. You shouldn't be eating them. Well, I agree we shouldn't be eating them, but I really think the beef burger is more of a problem than the candy bar, simply because the ripple effect from choosing that, purchasing that, eating that goes out to harm that animal, to use more land than the earth can handle, to promote global warming, to take food away from people in places where they don't have enough. So to me, it's very rejuvenating to simply get the animals off the plate. And thank you for mentioning my book, Younger by the Day. And I do want to say I'm doing regular lives on Instagram about Younger by the Day. So anybody who's interested in that can find me at Victoria Moran Author on Instagram and watch some of those. But in this context, I also wrote a book called The Good Karma Diet. And I really believe that when we get the animals and their products off the plate, that is a good karma diet and very rejuvenating. So the next thing that's been very important for me personally, and this has been part of my life for 38 years, both in my recovery from compulsive eating and also in a healthier way to live, is that I eat 3 meals a day. And I find it interesting now that people are talking about intermittent fasting, that seems like a cool thing to do. But for these many years, everybody was saying, oh, you really should be eating 6 or 8 times a day and keep your blood sugar stable all day. 3 meals a day has really worked for me for several reasons. One is that as a compulsive eater, the problem was never starting to eat, it was stopping. And so to be able to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner in these beautiful, discrete compartments, it really, really helped in keeping those eating binges at bay. It also really made me much more part of the world, because anywhere you go on earth, and I know you guys have traveled so much, but there's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You get a job, the boss has to give you a lunch hour. You have an interest in a man or a woman and you want them to take you out to dinner. I mean, it's never like you want to join me at 3:14 for a mini meal. And then what happened for me was it was 3 meals a day with living in between. And I really learned how to be with feelings that were uncomfortable, with cravings. I used to think that if I had a craving, I just had to satisfy it or it would kill me or something, except that's not how it works. And so that time in between meals is really a wonderful time to learn how to just be. What am I going to do with myself? Am I going to talk with someone wise? Am I going to write in a journal? Am I going to meditate? Am I going to take a walk? So all this is so helpful, the 3 meals a day. And then the third thing I would say is acknowledging who I am as a physical being and who I am as a physical being at this particular time in my life. So this is something that I've learned from Ayurveda, which talks about 3 doshas or 3 energetic personalities. And we all have one predominant and 1 or 2 following behind. So the one that I happen to be is Vata, which tends to be a little flighty and tends to be a little nervous, tends toward fear and anxiety when out of balance, and when in balance is childlike and creative and excited about life. So I want to be more on the plus side. But what's interesting about this, I don't mean to be telling all your viewers, well, this is me, but we all become more Vata in later life. When they say that youth ends at 60, that's when you really want to start looking at these Vata aspects of your body and your diet. So Vata is very dry. So this means I used to really like crackers. I kind of like gourmet crackers and the whole grain rye bread and all that, but that's very dry. And so I've kind of, let those things go a little bit. And the kinds of foods that are very nourishing for a Vata, which would be very nourishing for most people at that older time in life, would be soups and stews and oatmeal and smoothies, but not those cold frosty ones, because Vata is also cold. And just kind of honoring myself in this way and allowing for the fact of, I do get a little colder these days. This is why so many people my age have moved to Florida. Well, I haven't, but I can at least have my smoothie room temperature. I can at least have some warm herbal tea with it. So it's just learning how to honor the body and the time, and the result is rejuvenation.
So I have heard of this acronym that you use, and it is the word MEND, M-E-N-D.
We can't figure out what it stands for.
We've been trying to guess.
We've come up with some guesses, but let's hear what you have.
Yeah.
MEND, yes. Well, my grandmother used the phrase a lot, to mend one's ways. And I always thought that was an interesting concept because when I thought about mending, I thought about her, and she was so good with the needle and thread, and she could make a garment look like it had never been ripped or torn. And when she talked about mending one's ways, I thought, how interesting, because you can kind of go off track and do things you wish you hadn't done. But if you could mend your ways the way she mended clothing, that would be cool. And so much later in life, I came up with this concept of meditation, exercise, nourishment, and detoxification.
I got the N, but I did not get the D.
Okay.
Okay.
We came close. So tell us about the detoxification. We'll work backward if you don't mind.
Sure. Well, most people think of detox as going out and doing something, doing a water fast, maybe supervised somewhere, or a juice fast, or, something that takes a lot of effort and a lot of preparation and a lot of telling your friends, well, I'd better enjoy life now because on Monday I'm going to do a detox. I don't think of it like that. I think of it as living in a way where we don't get so toxic to begin with. Because the truth is, there are so many organ systems in the body that are designed to detoxify us. That's what they're doing. They're doing it every single day. And if we cooperate with them, then things are going to be just fine. So one of the things that I always suggest to people is to clear out the toxic waste dump underneath their sink. So if people are cleaning with conventional products, those things are outgassing. They're not good to smell. They're not good to get into your lungs. I'll sometimes take people on a supermarket tour and we'll walk down the cleaning product aisle and I'll say, close your eyes and just breathe in deeply like you were in yoga class. And they'll say, oh my goodness, I never thought about this before, but you can actually smell all that even when it's been sealed up. So we want to not be cleaning with that kind of stuff anymore. We can get the natural stuff, the method and the seventh generation, or you can make your own. It's amazing what you can clean with baking soda and club soda and white vinegar. And then body care products. They say you don't want to put anything on your face that's not good enough to eat. I'm not sure I go that far, but certainly we know people that are using nicotine patches and birth control patches. The stuff that goes on the skin gets inside. So we want to do good by ourselves in that way. The Environmental Working Group has a wonderful listing of non-toxic cosmetics and body care products. And these also happen to be, for the most part, cruelty-free, not tested on animals. So you get a lovely 2-for-1. And then we want to look at our kitchens and our food and just see, am I ingesting anything that isn't really food? Until a few years ago, there were those trans fats in everything. And when I was the young new vegan and we believed that margarine was a good thing, I remember once going to the recycling place back when you had to go to a place to recycle. And I had so many tubs for margarine. And it just kind of went through my mind, do you think this is good? And then I thought, yeah, I guess so. They say it is. Well, obviously it wasn't. So we don't have that so much anymore, but they've replaced a lot of those trans fats with palm oil and coconut oil. They're both highly saturated fats. They raise cholesterol, and maybe we don't want to be having these in our homes. And when we talk about the ripple effect, palm oil, some people say palm oil shouldn't even be considered vegan because of what it does to humans and orangutans and rainforests. So it's just the idea of looking at your life and seeing what's there that you just feel better without. And if it's something that's a little bit hard to get rid of, it's like, well, I don't know how to do without whatever it is. Well, talk to somebody who does, or talk to Google, because he probably knows.
Very good.
That was excellent. We also could add that products for your garden and the outside of your home. These sprays, these chemical sprays, you really don't want to get into that, in
Yeah.
our opinion.
Yeah, we try to be real careful about what we use.
Let's stay on MEND for a little bit longer, if it's okay. I love the acronym. Let's go back to the beginning. So the first M, the M stood for meditation. And we are certainly proponents of a mindfulness practice. Meditation to us is sort of the training for day-to-day, minute-to-minute mindfulness. So what kind of meditation do you personally do, if I may ask?
I personally do transcendental meditation because I was initiated into that back in the 1990s, but I'd been meditating for 20 years before that. That's a little bit expensive. It's not as expensive now as when I did it, but I first heard of it when I was 18 and it was $40. And I remember thinking, $40 was a lot more than that when I finally did it. But that's a simple mantra meditation. But what I see today is it's not really about what technique somebody chooses. It's about doing it. And I know people who don't do anything that might be described as a meditation technique, but maybe they walk early in the morning with their dog, or maybe they write in a journal. And these are very meditative activities. And I think one of the wonderful things about health and rejuvenation is how customized it can be. So when you look at that meditation, exercise, nourishment, detox, it's not like, well, this is the way you have to do it. It's like, okay, meditation, that's stillness, that's going within. What does that mean to me? Maybe there are devotions of one's religion. Whatever it is that brings you to this point of stillness, where you can get enough of the world out that you can say to yourself, all is well, and you don't feel like you're lying to yourself.
Beautiful. That's wonderful. Okay, so we're still mending here.
Exercise.
So now we talk about exercise. We're very pro exercise. We're fortunate we live in the mountains in North Carolina, so our treadmill is actually going up a mountain every morning. And yet I don't think you have to do that. I think anybody could do something. And Fran always says sitting is the new smoking. So we say get off your butts and move as much as you can within your comfort zone. What do you think about that?
Oh, I think that's absolutely right. And I have to say it is the hardest thing for me because I was a fat kid. I got picked last for all the teams. I never got that sense that we're supposed to get as young children, that movement is fun and delightful. Never did. So for me, it's always, you have to do this. You need to do this. And I kept thinking, well, if you do it long enough, one of these days, it's not going to be like that anymore. But for me, it is. And I'm just being very honest. So if there's anybody else out there who is in the same boat, for us, it takes a little more effort. I have often thought that the most difficult machine at the gym to master is the front door. If I can push that one open, then whatever else is in there, I can deal with. And the other thing that I find, when you asked earlier if I felt old yet, I have had a lot of injuries in my life. And interestingly enough, for someone who is not an athlete, most of them are called athletic injuries. One was a car accident, but all the others were athletic injuries, which basically meant I made this valiant effort to get off the couch and do something. And I either, fell off the bicycle or something happened. So most of my joints have had something awful happen to them at some time or other. So I've got to baby them a little bit. And I think this is true of any of us that have lived for a while. There are certain parts of ourselves that are just so strong and robust. It's like, what is all this? Some of these people around here are saying they feel old. I don't feel old. And yet we need to take care of the parts of ourselves that need taken care of. So I had Austin Aries, who is a fabulous plant-based pro wrestler, on my podcast. He may have retired by now, but when I asked him what his workout was like, he said, well, I have a trainer and we work around my injuries. And I thought, what a cool idea. Because for somebody who really understands the value of exercise, they can have an injury here and they work everything else. They work around the injury. And then somebody who thinks more like me would say, oh, I can't walk on the treadmill. My arm hurts. You know what? Nobody said walk on your hands. So that's that part for me. And the other thing I do want to share about exercise, and something that is extremely motivational to me, is the book called Younger Next Year. Do you guys know that book?
No.
It's not by vegan, vegetarian kind of people, but it's not about food. It's about exercise. So Younger Next Year was originally written for men, and they followed up with one called Younger Next Year for women. And I would so recommend this to your listeners because they package exercise in a different way than I have ever heard from anyone. So this is a master's level skier and a medical doctor. And what they say is that in addition to everything we know, yes, it builds muscle. Yes, it's great for your cardiovascular system. Yes, it builds bone density. Great. But in addition to that, it is this moving, this activity every single day that gets the message to your brain that you are worth taking care of. Because in prehistoric times, when there was a period of famine every winter and a lot of people died, the kind of habit that the body mind got into was it's cold and there's no food, and I'm going to just be very still in this cave and see if I die or not. And so when we're being very still, even if we're perfectly warm and we're eating all we want to eat, the brain still gets the message of, ooh, that person's looking at imminent death. So don't work very hard at having an immune system or doing any of these things that would rejuvenate and energize this person, because they're on their way out. So it's exercise that tells our brain that we're here and that we need to be taken care of. And I find that more motivating than even all that other good stuff, and it's all good.
Well, that's good to know after all the exercise we get. You're ensuring your legacy by training vegan lifestyle coaches and educators from around the world. What goes on at Main Street Vegan Academy?
Oh, thank you for asking. That's almost like asking me to show pictures of my daughter, because I'm so proud of
This
my
is your baby.
my Main Street Vegan Academy graduates. For the past 10 years, we're celebrating our 10th anniversary in June. I have been training in several cohorts a year, people who are experts on the entire vegan lifestyle. So we have tiers of study. We've got vegan principles, and in there are health taught by medical doctors, nutrition taught by a registered dietitian, cruelty-free fashion taught by Joshua Katcher, just a wonderful young fashion designer here in New York City, whose clothes have been in GQ and Vogue. Wonderful. And I teach the veg history class, because this whole tradition and the way that we eat, it didn't just start in 1990 with Dean Ornish or in 1980 with PETA. This has been part of the human experience for as long as there have been humans. So it's utterly fascinating. So people get these vegan principles, then they get communication principles. So how can we share with others without being pushy, without turning them off, how to do this? So they learn coaching techniques, public speaking, and all kinds of ways to get this message out. And then we have business principles, because the people who take the course are certified as vegan lifestyle coaches and educators. Many of them do want to have a coaching practice, and others are entrepreneurs. So I should really add another E there: vegan lifestyle coach, educator, and entrepreneur. But we have people who have all kinds of wonderful businesses. We have a graduate in Dallas, Kat Mendenhall, who has Kat Mendenhall cowboy boots. They're custom designed, made in America, eco-friendly and cruelty-free. We have it's not mine, but it's my graduates. It feels like it's mine. 𝗬𝗢𝗥𝗡 the shop, a bodega in Philadelphia. Bon Mall, a vegan ice cream in Mexico City. One of our graduates is 𝗂𝐿 Fields, who started the Colorado Springs Vegan Cooking Academy. She's also written several cookbooks. So people are just out there doing these amazing things, and we do stay connected, and there's just so much networking. It's just such a joy, and I feel so personally gratified for everybody that finds Main Street Vegan Academy and everybody who attends and then goes out in the world and does something wonderful.
I have to tell you, I really want to thank you for perpetuating the whole movement of healthy eating as you are doing. I really admire that. We're going to put links to your contact information as well as to your website and to information about the Academy for anybody that might be interested in being certified as a coach or an educator regarding the vegan lifestyle. You know, it seems to me, by the way, you never seem to slow down. What's on the front burner right now?
Oh, you're so kind to ask. I have my 14th book in the works, and it's rather challenging because in the world of publishing, which is an industry that's having some challenges itself right now, it's very difficult for them to believe that somebody can write in what seems to them like another genre. So a couple of people in the industry have said, well, you need to write vegan books. You're a vegan author. But I've always been vegan and I've written all kinds of books. So my next one that I'm very excited about is, as you mentioned in the introduction, Age Like a Yogi, a heavenly path to a dazzling third act. So my challenge is convincing a publisher that I can write this book. However, I've been doing yoga longer than I've been vegan, so we'll see. But the idea is this beautiful spiritual philosophy as a way to help go forward in life, combined with the health message from Ayurveda. And of course, the vegan message is in there too, because that's who I am. And I can't imagine being holistically healthy without that. So Age Like a Yogi, if anybody wants to hold a good thought for that, I would be very grateful.
We'll do it for you.
For sure.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Victoria. You're an extraordinary woman. We'll be posting your contact information and links in the description section below.
Also, we want to thank our viewers for watching today. And if you like today's interview, please give it a thumbs up, write us a comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. And be sure to get notification alerts when we post our next video. So, Victoria, thank you so much. Friends out there, we look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye-bye for now.